Columbus, Ohio, where we Bill Roseberry, Roy Palmer, also Peter Charles, a fellow faculty member, and probably 8 or 10 people regularly met, went to bars and whatever, and talked about art constantly, assuming that that's what you had to do to be an artist, and that's what they must be doing in New York City or in Berlin or whatever. And the same thing was true at West Virginia University, where David Veeder, Mark Perlman, Bill Roseberry, and again Peter Charles were there. And I had many discussions in depth about art and philosophy and whatever.
Will Peterson was also.
Will Peterson. Will, yeah. If I had to say who of my elders was the most influential person, I would say Will Peterson. Not just because of his ideas about art, which didn't always parallel mine. I think he had a little bit of a different take on art, although I always respected everything he had to say. He had a great knowledge of Japan. He had lived there. His wife was Japanese, Ami Harata, his first wife. And through Will and Ami, I learned a lot about Japanese art, Japanese culture, and I took Japanese language class from a friend of theirs, so I got into the Japanese thing, which was the event in some manner that pulled me out of minimalism, as I had been doing very reductive painting since 1968 or 69, and interest in Japanese culture and patterns, which eventually made their way into my work. Interest in those, in that subject, made for a change in my work, visually, and maybe more importantly, it changed my attitude about subject matter. That is, I had not used images for 10 years or so, and the idea of using an image made for a reduction of my interest in formalism and an increase in my interest in content. And Will also was very good to me in that he was a printer, and he published several of my editions. He introduced me to certain gallery people. He was a friend of people like Fielding Dawson and Stan Brakhage and all of the Beats, although I don't think I ever met any of the Beats, but he spoke of them often. But Will was the person who was kind of an artist and somebody who was famous in small circles. And in that sense, I was always very impressed with him and what he had done with his life. Which brings me to another person, Constantine Milanatis, who was the artist in residence at Notre Dame, and Milanatis had won the Palmer Prize, the big prize in the Chicago and vicinity show. He had worked in the Art Institute, and so through Constantine Milanatis, I got interested in certain things that were going on in Chicago art. In D.C., I don't think I met anybody who really changed my career. I wasn't interested. I met Gene Davis. He used to come over to Anton Gallery occasionally on Capitol Hill, and I chatted with him on several occasions. Gilliam was the president of the Coalition of Washington Artists, and I knew him. In fact, he had nominated me for the steering committee. And I knew probably most of those Washington artists who had some degree of notoriety, but I didn't find any of them that exciting. The one exception of the well-known Washington artist would probably have been Bill Willis, whose painting, you know, most of the time, an artist, I think if they're truthful, most of the time when they see another artist's work, they might say, oh, well, he's pretty good, but I think mine is better. And then occasionally you run across somebody who you look at their work and you say, you know, I better keep on top of things because we're running neck and neck, or he's better than me, or whatever. And Willis was one of those people. As always, Peter Charles was, Bill Roseberry.